Thursday, March 9th, 2023 edition of the Freedom News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest factual news happenings in Liberia and elsewhere. This is a Jeff Jefferson presentation in the top developments. We're following tonight's Senate Pro Tem Abu Chie gave 2 weeks ultimatum to the National Elections Commission to resolve the issue of Attorney Tej Jallo survey and the position of legal advisor at the commission without being a consular alone. As next chairperson Didier Brown Lassana informs the plenary of the Liberian Senate that the biometric voters registration process is ongoing across the country. The Liberian National Police releases progress report on the armed robbery attack on the home of former Chief Justice Councillor Gloria Musu Scott, which led to the death of her daughter. Opposition political parties, including the Unity Party or Liberian Party, Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, Liberia's People Party, Rainbow Alliance, reject the results of the 2022 National Housing and Population Census, noting that it contradicts reality and is bent on manipulating the pending general and presidential elections. Away from home, Ugandan lawmakers on Thursday introduced legislation to parliament that proposes tough new penalties for same-sex relations in a country where homosexuality is already illegal, defying criticism from human rights groups. The details of these developments, the voices of the newsmakers, the news bulletin, sports, and foreign news are all packaged in this edition of the news program, proudly sponsored by Crime Stoppers Liberia, relayed on Hard Work Radio in Papa District, Grand Cape County. Follow us online at Freedom Radio Liberia. At this juncture, we cross over to the news desk where Jared Morris is seated to read for us the bulletin. Good evening, Jared.
Good evening, Jeff. Good evening, Liberia. The pro tem of the Liberian Senate, Abbott Chie, has given 2 weeks ultimatum to the National Elections Commission to resolve the issue of Anthony Tish Jallo serving in the position of legal advisor of the commission without being a counselor at law. Recently, Grand Bassa County Senator Yombli Kanga Lawrence informed the plenary of the Liberian Senate that Anthony Jallo lacks the qualification of counselor at law and he should not be occupying said position at the commission. Following series of discussions by senators regarding the matter, the NEC Board of Commissioners headed by Madam Lassana was cited to appear before plenary to state reasons why Anthony Jallo is serving the position and also addresses other election matters. Pro-Tem Chie made the statement Thursday when the NEC Board of Commissioners appeared before the plenary to answer questions regarding the ability and preparedness of NEC in conducting the 2023 elections and the structure of the legal department. However, Pro-Tem Chie stressed that the act creating the NEC requires that before anyone serves in such position, he or she must be a counselor at law. The Grand Crew County Senator noted that since it is an administrative decision that was taken by the NEC Board of Commissioners, it is necessary that a decision be taken by the board to resolve the matter before the conduct of the October 10, 2023 elections. Speaking earlier, the NEC chairperson David Ethel Brown Lassana acknowledged that Anthony Jallo is assigned in the legal section as acting legal counsel and is a 2004 graduate of a law school in the United States of America. She said Jallo has applied to the law school in America for the photocopy of his degree, adding that the issue of Jallo is an administrative decision that can be taken by the NEC Board of Commissioners. At the same time, the chairperson of the National Elections Commission, Madam David Ethel Brown Lassana, has informed the plenary of the Liberian Senate that the biometric voters registration process is ongoing across the country. She noted that some materials for The nationwide exercise has arrived in the country, coupled with training of staff and the completion of the training of trainers for the smooth conduct of the process. The chairperson of the National Elections Commission also revealed that the commission is yet to receive an initial amount of US 4 million from the Ministry of Finance to begin processes leading to the conduct of the 2023 elections. Madam Lassana told the plenary of the Liberian Senate Thursday that the Ministry of Finance had promised to provide US 4 million from the allotted US 10 million for phase 1 of the processes leading to the elections. The NEC boss narrated that the commission earlier submitted a budget of US 91 million, but it was reduced to 51 million following discussions between the commission and the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. According to her, US 33 million is current allotment to the National Elections Commissions for elections, stressing that the commission was asked by the Ministry of Finance to put such amount into phases. She added that US 10 million was allotted to phase 1, the same amount to phase 2, and US 13 million to phase 3, which is the final phase of the process. Madam Lassana said corresponding date for the Ministry of Finance to release the cash of US 10 million for phase 1 is March 15, 2023, but prior to such date, the ministry promised to have processed US 4 million to the NEC for phase 1, which has not been done. She noted that the decisions were reached by the Ministry of Finance, that's the Minister of Finance, Samuel Twe, and the Board of Commissioners of the National Elections Commission. The Liberian National Police has released progress report on the armed robbery attack on the home of former Chief Justice Councillor Gloria Musu Scott, which led to the death of one of her daughters. Speaking Thursday at the Ministry of Information regular press briefing in Monrovia, Deputy Inspector General of Police for Crime Services, Colonel Prince Moriba, disclosed that the investigation in the matter is ongoing as the LNP commenced questioning of workers, family members, and securities assigned at the former Chief Justice residence. Colonel Moriba further that the Ministry of Justice, as a means of ensuring a credible and trusted investigative process, has invited stakeholders, civil society groups, diplomatic missions in Liberia, the media, amongst others, to join the investigation process. However, Colonel Moriba used the occasion to appreciate Councillor Scott and family for their cooperation thus far with the police, terming it as welcoming. He added that detail of the investigation will be announced at the appropriate time, as there have been no arrests made by the LNP as the investigation is underway. Opposition political parties, including the Unity Party, All Liberian Party, Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, Liberia's People Party, Rainbow Alliance, have rejected the result of the 2022 National Housing and Population Census, noting that it contradicts reality and is bent on manipulating the pending general and presidential elections. Reading a joint statement following a resolution on behalf of the parties Thursday at the grounds of the Capitol building in Monrovia, Unity Party Chairman Luther Tappe accused the CDC-led government of conducting a fraudulent census marred by allegations of corruption, mismanagement of funds, and postponements. The Unity Party national chairman, on behalf of the opposition political parties, called on the National Elections Commission not to use the preliminary results of the census recently released by legislators for any election-related activity. According to Reverend Tappe, they as opposition political parties further note revelations pointing accusing fingers to top managers of legies convening to share census funds among themselves, abuse and management of census process, technical issues, irregularities, huge public outcry of the process, among others, as issues that have informed them of the lack of credibility of the preliminary results. Meanwhile, the opposition United Party chairman said that the Liberian Institute on Statistics and Geoinformation Services preliminary report was paraded by few individuals and conspirators who are beneficiaries of the corrupt process. Receiving the resolution on behalf of the House of Senate, Sino County Senator Milton Tiachi lauded the opposition political party's decision, describing it as enterprising in democratic process. Senator Tiaje assured the opposition political parties that he will deliver the resolution to the office of the pro tem and assured the political parties of redress over their concerns. Deputy Information Minister for Press and Public Affairs, Ajarawa Tompo, has frowned on constant attacks on government officials by members of the campus-based Students' Unification Party. Deputy Minister Tompo's statement is in reaction to the recent attack on Aloysius Howe, a staff in the Office of Finance and Development Planning Minister Samuel Twe. Addressing the Ministry of Information regular press briefing Thursday, Minister Tompo said the constant attacks on government officials by members of the Students' Unification Party is uncalled for. He, however, condemned the act, warning that such act should not be repeated anywhere in Liberia. The Deputy Information Minister for Press and Public Affairs is, however, calling on the University of Liberia faculty to institute measures as to curtail reoccurrence. Foreign Minister D. Maxwell Kemia has admonished international and development partners of the least developed countries and financial institutions to ensure comprehensive debt relief as a necessary imperative for debt distress least developed countries. He told participants at the recent Fifth United Nations Conference on the Least Developed Countries in Doha, Qatar, that such move will endanger the successful implementation of the Doha Program of Action. Foreign Minister Kemia said the pathway to prosperity and development must begin with concrete actions within the framework of international cooperation and strategic partnership, including sealed up official development assistance and commitments, as well as access to development finance to boost the attainment of the six key areas of focus of the Doha Program of Action and its full implementation. According to a foreign ministry release, Minister Kemia mentioned that in the wake of increasing global challenges, the need for support and partnership to accelerate the development agenda of the least developed countries seems ever more compelling. He further said it is within said context with the Fifth United Nations Conference on the Least Developed Countries, which was held under the theme From Potential to Prosperity, was conveyed in Doha in anticipation of building momentum to concretize movements, support enforce cooperation, task force cooperation for the implementation of the program of action, including its six priorities areas for the next decades, 2022 to 2031. The Liberian foreign minister said he believes that the Doha Program of Action represents an instrument that can drive LDCs towards prosperity and development. He, however, indicated that more than 50 years since its inception, the development aspirations of LDCs continue to be certified amidst multifaceted challenges, asserting that lessons from the implementation of the Istanbul Program of Action is a reminder that the goal of structural transformation to induce economic growth and poverty eradication still remains a pressing challenge in the LDCs. Vice President Jewel Howard Taylor, at the invitation of the founder of the Africa Women's Health Project International Global Foundation, has addressed the First Ladies Forum and Economic Development Summit in commemoration of the International Women's Day. Vice President Taylor, speaking at the summit in Doha, the United Arab Emirates, asserted that women's economic empowerment includes the ability to participate equally in existing markets and have access to and control of productive resources. She also emphasized that women's economic empowerment include access to decent work, control over their own time, lives, and bodies, and the constant advocacy and meaningful participation in economic decision making at all levels. Well, Jeff, back to you for the continuation of the Freedom News Basket.
Gerald Morris and the news bulletin. It is a regular feature on Freedom News Basket. If you just joining us, a reminder that you're listening to the Thursday, March 9th, 2023 presentation of Freedom News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest factual captivating news happenings in Liberia and elsewhere. These top stories we're following in this edition of the news program. Senate Pro Tem Abachia gives 2 weeks ultimatum to the National Elections Commission to resolve the issue of Antonette Jallo serving in the position of legal advisor of the Commission. As the National Elections Commission chairperson, Madam Delia Brown Lasana, informs the plenary of the Liberian Senate that the parliamentary voters registration process is ongoing across the country. Liberia National Police releases progress report on the armed robbery attack on the home of former Chief Justice Councillor Gloria Musu Scott, which led to the death of one of her daughters. Opposition political parties, including the former ruling Unity Party, the All Liberian Party, Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, Liberia's People's Party, Rainbow Alliance, reject preliminary results of the 2022 National Housing and Population Census, notes that it contradicts the reality bent on manipulating the pending general and presidential elections. Elsewhere, Ugandan lawmakers on Thursday introduced legislation to parliament that proposes tough new penalties for same-sex relations in a country where homosexuality is already illegal, defying criticisms from human rights groups, according to the BBC. Let's now bring you the voices of those making the news. Let's begin with this development where the Liberia National Police has released a progress report on the armed robbery attack on the home of former Chief Justice Councillor Gloria Musu Scott, which led to the death of one of her daughters. Speaking Thursday at the Ministry of Information regular press briefing in Monrovia, Deputy Inspector General of Police for Crime Services, Colonel Prince Morba, disclosed that investigation in the matter is underway as the LMP commenced the cautioning of workers, family members, and security is assigned at the former Chief Justice residence. Kadamorba furthered that the Ministry of Justice, as a means of ensuring a credible and trusted investigative process, has invited the stakeholders, civil society groups, diplomatic missions in Liberia, the media, amongst others, to join the investigation process. Let's listen to Colonel Prince Morban speaking at the Mika press briefing Thursday. Well, let's apologize. We can't get to the excerpt of Colonel Prince Morba. So this development where opposition political parties, including the Unity Party, the All Liberian Party, Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, Liberia's People Party, Rainbow Alliance, have rejected the results of the 2022 National Housing and Population Census, reading a joint statement following a resolution on behalf of the parties Thursday. At the grounds of the Capitol building in Monrovia, Unity Party Chairman Luther Fape Otapet accused the CDC-led government of conducting a fraudulent census marked by allegations of corruption, mismanagement of funds, and postponements. The Unity Party National Chairman, on behalf of the opposition political parties, called on the National Elections Commission not to use the preliminary results of the census recently released by legislators for any election-related activity. Let's listen to Luto Tape, chairman of the opposition Common Ruling Unity Party.
Is this a resolution of major opposition political parties regarding the preliminary results of the 2022 census and its implication on the 2023 presidential and legislative elections? Presented to members of the international community and our national stakeholders like the House of Legislature, the National Election Commission, the Inter-Party Council, the Liberian Council of Churches, the Mana River Union, ECOWAS Community, the African Union, the European Union delegation, the Embassy of the United States of America.
After the failure of the CDC government to fulfill Article 39 of the 1986 Constitution, which mandates that the legislature shall cause a census of the Republic
To be undertaken every 10 years.
a somewhat fraudulent census process was finally initiated between November 12 and December 18, 2022. Prior to and during the period of the remuneration process, there were slews of allegations of wanton corruption and uncontrollable mismanagement of census, causing distrust, postponement, pointless delay to the original date. As the constitutionally flawed census proceeded against the advice of the experts, we saw documentary evidence of transfer of census funds into private accounts and disbursement made to individuals who made no justification for the contribution. We listened to firsthand of the revelation of experts pointing accusing fingers to top managers conniving to share census money among themselves. The abuse and mismanagement of the census process, coupled with public outcries, pressured the president to dismiss Mr. Wyman Smith, the man who was in the center of all the allegations, with no prosecutory action. This testifies to the fact that top government officials were also prime beneficiaries of the massive fraud alleged. Members of the folk estate, the processes that led to the conduct of the 2022 census in Liberia was judging by the available facts. The exercise was marred by not only technical irregularity, but also corruption, negligence, and lack of leadership.
Now, therefore, we, the major political parties and national leaders, have resolved the following: that we reject the preliminary result of the 2022 National Housing and Population Census recently released by Legit, and called on the legislature and the National Election Commission not to use the figures of the census to set population threshold for constituency or for reapportioning of electoral boundaries.
He's the chairman of the opposition Common Ruling Unity Party. We're receiving the resolution on behalf of the House of Senate. Sano County Senator Milton Theoji lauded the opposition political party's decision, describing it as enterprising in democratic processes. Senator Theoji has showed the opposition political parties that he will deliver the resolution to the office of the pro tem and assured the political parties of redress over their concerns.
Mr. Chairman and members of this delegation, would like to thank you for this presentation. Like Senator Fatekwa mentioned, this is an enterprise in democratic practices, where when citizenry believes that a particular issue is of concern, they can come to the elected officers to seek redress. We want to applaud you for this initiative that you have taken. There are lots of issues you raised in here. These are, using your word, trending issues. We will pass this resolution on to the entirety of the Liberian Senate through the ROA, of which we are members, so that each senator will have a copy and review it, and we believe after that, and through the office of the pro tem, you will hear from us regarding our own idea as to how we can continue to work together to move forward to sustain the peace and assure the stability of this country. Above everything else, the stability of this nation will not be allowed to be undermined. And one of the ways to undermine the stability of the country is to ignore the concerns of citizens. That is why we left session today. All of you can be our witnesses. We were in session, we left the session to come here and pay attention to you. So we want to thank you. We take these concerns, and we process them through the legitimate hierarchy of the Senate, you hear from other people.
His Sana County Senator Nathan Tiager receiving a stipend during the resolution presented to the House of Senate by opposition political parties. To this development, where the Liberian National Police has released a progress report on the armed robbery attack on the home of former Chief Justice Councillor Gloria Musu Scott, which led to the death of one of her daughters. Speaking Thursday at the Ministry of Information regular press briefing in Monrovia, Deputy Inspector General of Police for Crime Services, Colonel Prince Morba, disclosed that investigation in the matter is ongoing as the LP commenced the cautioning of workers' family members and security is assigned at the former Chief Justice residence. Let's listen to Colonel Prince Morba.
Last week, while we were here giving you updates, our officers were at the home of the former Chief Justice, the Honorable Supreme Court of Liberia, Honor Gloria Musu Scott, obtaining statements from her, including other occupants of the building, family members that were present. And we told you earlier that the first people we were dealing with were the security officers assigned. We also spoken with, you may have heard there were some renovation work going on. So those that were involved with renovation work, specifically electricians, also spoken with them. So all parties in this case have been reached out to, and the investigation is ongoing with them. Interestingly, on the 6th of March 2023, which was Monday, we took another visitation at the crime scene, talking about the home of honor that is situated in Virginia, Montserrat County. We had gone there with parties involved, all parties, security personnel, electricians, that is the contractors, staff, family members, and all other parties. And then we were accompanied also by other stakeholders. You have heard also in the media that the Minister of Justice has extended invitation to stakeholders, other civil society organizations, media institutions, diplomatic missions near Monrovia to be part of this course. The intent is to ensure much more transparency, professionalism, reliability as people are requesting that we should do this. So on Monday, that crime scene was investigated, was revisited, and we want to appreciate my Gloria Musu Scott and her family for the level of cooperation thus far. So everyone is on board, everyone is helping with this investigation. Further investigation that some of the intricacies, some of the details would not be appropriate now to be left out. But one will ask me, have you arrested anyone in this? Have you got this? So at the appropriate time, if anyone is arrested in direct connection to this heinous and barbaric crime that was committed, you will be made to understand who that person is. If it is one or two or more, we will definitely come to the public again to let you know and how we proceed forward.
His Deputy Inspector of Police for Crime Services, Colonel Prince Morba, addressing the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism regular press briefing Thursday in Monrovia. He's brought us to further medicine to the news. We've gone to half hour mark, and let's remind you listening to the Thursday, March 9, 2023 edition of Freedom News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest factual, captivating news happenings in Liberia and elsewhere. Top developments we're carrying in this edition of the news program. Senate Pro Tem Abbott Chie gave 2 weeks ultimatum to the National Elections Commission to resolve the issue of Antonin Tish Jallo serving in the position of legal advisor of the commission, as the National Elections Commission chairperson, Madam Deviata Brown Lasana, informs the plenary of the Liberian Senate that the biometric voters registration process is ongoing across the country. Liberia National Police releases progress report on the armed robbery attack on the home of former Chief Justice Councillor Gloria Musu Scott, which led to the death of one of her daughters. Opposition political parties, including the Unity Party, the All Liberian Party, Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, Liberia's People Party, Rainbow Alliance, reject preliminary results of the 2022 National Housing and Population Census. Note that it contradicts the reality bent on manipulating the pending general and presidential elections. Elsewhere, Ugandan lawmakers on Thursday introduced legislation to parliament that proposes tough new penalties for same-sex relations in a country where homosexuality is already illegal, defying criticisms for human rights groupings. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you more developments in this edition of the News Basket. Let's apologize that we can't bring you the passion of live sports. Thanks for rejoining us. Let's continue with more developments. The pro tem of the Liberian Senate, Abachi, has given 2 weeks ultimatum to the National Elections Commission to resolve the issue of Antoine Tej Jallo serving in the position of legal advisor of the commission without being a counselor at law. Recently, Grand Bassa County Senator Yumlikanga Lawrence informed the plenary of the Liberian Senate that Antonio Jallo lacks the qualification of counselor at law and he should not be occupying said position at the commission. Pro Tem Chair made the statement Thursday when the NEC Board of Commissioners appeared before the plenary to answer questions regarding the ability and preparedness of NEC in conducting the 2023 elections and the structure of the legal department. Let's listen to Senate Pro Tem Abbott Chair.
So let us mandate our judicial committee to work, and the committee on autonomous commission to work along with NEC to ensure that we have the proper legal counsel for NEC. That's my order. Order is overruled. I think it's a technical question. We must have a time frame when that will be implemented. So, Madam Chair, please give us time frame.
I will find that very difficult, Honorable, because the board again will have to review and come up with a decision how the board moves forward. But if you give us a mandate, we'll take it and implement it.
Because election is coming, and we got to make sure that person who is acting, who is not qualified to act, does not remain in that position when elections taking place. So the Senate wants to know, he must give us time frame. We don't want to impose time frame on you, but over the next 2 weeks or so, we need time frame.
He's the pro tem at the Liberian Senate, but she will responding to the concerns that Chairperson Didier Brown Lasana said or acknowledged that Anthony Jallo is assigned in the legal section as acting legal counsel, and it is a 2004 graduate of a law school in the United States of America. She said Jallo has applied to the law school in the U.S. for the photocopy of his degree, adding that the issue of Jallo is an administrative decision that can be taken by the NEC Board of Directors. Let's listen to Madam Javier Brown Lasana.
With respect to the status of the biometric status and possibilities, the commission had submitted a budget of 91 million, which was reduced somewhere around 83 in terms of discussions. With respect to Attorney Tej Jallo, he is assigned in the legal section as acting legal counsel. Attorney Jallo is a 2004 graduate of the Thomas Cooley Law School located in the United States of America. He is admitted in 3 separate jurisdictions in the U.S. as an attorney and a counselor, and has, since August 2015, been admitted to the Liberian National Bar Association as an attorney at law. Attorney Jallo is one of the multitasking employees of the commission. While retired Councillor Joseph Bleedy, who was in the position as head of the legal section, Attorney Jallo served as law clerk to the past Board of Commissioners, drafted its rulings, and performed other duties. With this current board, he continues to serve as a law clerk, drafts the board's rulings when requested, and performs other functions as delegated by the commission.
She's The Commissioner of the National Elections Commission, Madam Divya Brown Lasana, responding to concerns over the legal status of Antonin Tish Jallo serving in the position of legal advisor at the Commission. Still with the National Elections Commission, Madam Divya Brown Lasana has informed the plenary of the Liberian Senate that the biometric voters registration process is underway across the country. She noted that some materials for the nationwide exercise have arrived in country, coupled with the training of staff and the completion of the training of trainers for the smooth conduct of the process. The chairperson of the National Elections Commission was speaking Thursday when she appeared before the plenary of the Liberian Senate.
The commission had submitted a budget of 91 million, which was reduced somewhere. With respect to the status of the biometric status and possibilities, we say currently the biometric voter registration process is ongoing in terms of training kits for the BV hour, which arrived in the country a couple of weeks ago. Also, first and second levels of training have been concluded for trainers of trainers, and training is now being rolled out in the field. Several biometric voter registration demonstrations have been done, including marketing association, political parties, and the plan is underway with your acquiescence to do a demonstration for the joint house of the legislature. Biometric voter registration software has been fully tested and is ready for implementation. Also, testing for both hardware and software was done in collaboration with the vendor, UNDP, NEC, and our colleagues, technician from Sierra Leone, who came to assist us. The Commission remains on course to start the first phase of the biometric voter registration on 20 March 2023.
Meanwhile, Madam Lasana has told the plenary of the Liberian Senate that the Ministry of Finance that Madam Lasana also revealed that the Commission is yet to receive an initial amount of $4 million from the Ministry of Finance to begin processes leading to the conduct of the 2023 elections. Madam Lasana told the plenary of the Liberian Senate Thursday that the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning had promised to provide $4 million from the allotted US $10 million for phase one of the processes leading to the elections. The NEG commissioner narrated that the commission earlier submitted a budget of $91 million, but it was reduced to US $51 million following discussions between the commission and the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning.
The commission had submitted a budget of 91 million, which was reduced somewhere around 83 in terms of discussions and negotiations. It was further reduced to 73, it came down to 61, then it went to 51. So the allotment to the commission now is 33 million for elections. And we were asked to put this amount into phases. Phase 1, 10 million, phase 2, 10 million, phase 3, 13 million. With the corresponding dates, March 15 for 10 million, April 16 for another 10 million, and May 15 for the 13 million. This was arrived at with a discussion with the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, which led members of the board and our team present. Up to date, we were informed that some 4 million would have been processed. Up to date, there is no funding to the elections.
She's the commissioner of the National Elections Commission, David Brown Lasana, speaking at the plenary of the Liberian Senate Thursday. Deputy Information Minister for Press and Public Affairs, Jalwa Tompo, has frowned on constant attacks on government officials by members of the campus-based Students' Unification Party. Deputy Minister Tompo's statement is in reaction to the recent attack on Aloysius Howe, a staff in the Office of Finance and Development Planning Minister Samuel Toy. Addressing the Ministry of Information regular press briefing Thursday, Minister Tompo said the constant attacks on government officials by members of the Students' Unification Party is uncalled for.
Let me just say to you that Liberia will not have a state state. Liberia is governed by one president, and that president is His Excellency Dr. George M. Weah. I'm saying this to say that the constant attacks on government officials or people who align with the government at the University of Liberia is uncalled for. We condemn it in the strongest possible term and should never exist in our society. That university is a public university, and all of us who have attended or who are attending at that university belong in Liberia. We live in Liberia, and nobody should have absolute control or should have the right to run after another citizen.
He's Deputy Information Minister for Press and Public Affairs, General Tampo. Coming up is the news from the foreign scene. This development will set the pace. Government through the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority has signed to fisheries memorandum of understanding to promote and facilitate cooperation in fisheries, especially in cooperation in combating illegal fishing activities with the government and people of the Republic of Mauritania. The Director General of the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority, Emma Glasgow, signed on behalf of the government of Liberia, while the Mauritanian Minister of Fisheries, Mohamed Adedine Mayiv, signed on behalf of his government. Making remarks before the signing ceremony, Madam Glasgow commended the Mauritanian government for creating the enabling environment for the signing, which intends to enhance the cordial relations between the two countries. This is Madam Emma Glasgow of the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority.
We are also very pleased that finally Mauritania has consented through its goodwill for the signing of this cooperation, as we have done with several other countries in an effort to fight illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing activities in our sub-region. This MOU also helped us to support with information sharing platform and also technical support when it's deemed necessary. And we believe that this is the beginning of a new partnership between the government of Liberia and the government of Mauritania. I think this is one of this recent signing in many, many years. And so we are very grateful, the people of Liberia, they are very grateful for this cooperation. So I would like to thank you again, Your Excellency, for your kind cooperation.
She's the Director General of the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority, Emma Glasgow. Let's now rejoin Gerard Morris to bring for us the news from the foreign scene.
Ugandan lawmakers on Thursday introduced legislation to parliament that proposes tough new penalties for same-sex relations in a country where homosexuality is already illegal, defying criticism from human rights groups. Anita Among, the Speaker of the Parliament, referred the bill to a House committee for scrutiny, the first step in an accelerated process to pass the proposal into law. There will be a public hearing in which sexual minorities will be allowed to participate, she said in an address before Parliament laced with homophobic language. The bill comes as conspiracy theories accusing shadowed international forces of promoting homosexuality gain attraction on social media in conservative Uganda. Under the proposed law, anyone who engages in same-sex activity or who holds out as LGBTQ could face up to 10 years imprisonment. It is unclear how long the parliament process could take. Among said when the time comes, legislators who vote on the bill one by one in front of their peers. Uganda is notorious for intolerance of homosexuality, which is criminalized under colonial era laws, and strict Christian views on homosexuality in general.
Jared Morris in the news from the foreign scene. He's taking us home on this edition of the News Basket. Just before we leave you, a recap of the major developments we've been following in this edition of Freedom News Basket. Senate Pro Tem Abbott Chia gives 2 weeks ultimatum to the National Elections Commission to resolve the issue of Attorney Tej Jallo serving in the position of legal advisor of the Commission. As the National Elections Commission chairperson, Madam Devi Brown Lansana informs the plenary of the Liberian Senate that the biometric voters registration process is ongoing across the country. Liberian National Police releases progress report on the armed robbery attack on the home of former Chief Justice Councilor Gloria Musu Scott, which led to the death of one of her doctors. Opposition political parties, including the Unity Party, All Liberian Party, Movement for Democracy and Reconstruction, Liberia's People Party, Rainbow Alliance, reject preliminary results of the 2022 National Housing and Population Census, note that it contradicts the reality and bent on manipulating the pending general and presidential elections. Elsewhere, Ugandan lawmakers on Thursday introduced a legislation to parliament that proposes tough new penalties for same-sex relations in a country where homosexuality is already illegal, defying criticisms from human rights groups. Many thanks to our contributors, correspondents, reporters, helped to make this edition of the News Basket. As sources, Gerard Morris read us the news bulletin, the news from the foreign scene. An invitation that you join us tomorrow morning at 6 for Freedom News Insight and our magazine news program. This news presentation is been relayed on how to work radio in Pawpaw District, Grand Cabron County, has been sponsored by Crime Stoppers Liberia. Thanks for listening. Thanks for viewing on behalf of the team. This has been the Jeff Jefferson presentation. Good evening from Arovia.